Hello and welcome to part 3 of the Berko Witches of East Warsaw. I'm Leigh Dworkin. This is part 3, as I said, and basically we have managed to blow a huge hole in our brick wall and discover the names and pictures of many Berkowitz, siblings, Harrisol Gershon, Max, Louis, Isidore, Friedel, and Goldie, and discover that their mother was Shosha, and also find a picture of her, so that was very exciting. What is left to do? Let's go back in time. So I was very grateful to the Steins for supplying me with all those audio recordings of Sam Stein, and so to give something back to them, I wanted to go back and verify some of the information that they'd drawn up for me in a tree. So first of all, we know that Sam Stein, or real name Shmuel Eisenstein, had married Goldie Berkowitz. We knew Sam's father was Nathan, and his mother was Sarah, and he lived to 86 years. And his grandfather was Joseph Eisenstein. Apparently he'd lived to be at least 96 years old and didn't know the name of his wife. There were also some siblings of Sam Stein, Celia, Jaime, and there was also an older brother, David, or David Stein. He was the one who first changed the name from the Polish Eisenstein to the American Stein. And quite a lot was known about him and his children. The family knew about them. So the first thing I did was look for Sam Stein's father, Nathan, his mother, Sadie or Sarah, and found them on the 1910 census. Zooming in, we get to see Nathan and Sadie, and here are two children, Herman and Celia, matching what we were expecting. Get to see that they're German speakers, i.e. Yiddish, but the children are speaking English. And it looks like they came to the country roughly in 1906. Apparently Nathan is working as a cleaner and the others aren't working, except maybe for the, looks like the Celia was working as a clerk in a button factory. I managed to find Nathan's death certificate from Family Search and get to see the names of his parents, Joseph Stein, and his mother, Frieda, maiden name Steinberg. It looks like he died aged 80, not 86, as the family thought, and he was a fruit peddler. I also ordered the certificate itself. You can sometimes find a few more details. This came from the archives in Salt Lake City. And here is the certificate itself, so you get to see the Joseph Stein, Frieda Steinberg, etc., etc. Also managed to go back one more generation. This surprised me a little bit. So having found Joseph and Frieda on that death certificate, I expected to find them in Poland, but I couldn't find any trace at all. And the reason for this was it looks like they made it to the United States. And so I found Joseph Stein with Frieda in the 1920 census, and not a great deal of information about them, except to note their ages. So in 1920, Joseph was 84, and Frieda was a bit younger, Russian Jewish. and we see that he's retired and she's a housewife, so they're not having to work for a living, but they do seem to have made it to New York. I also managed to find the death certificate of Joseph Stein in 1922, and get to see his wife Frida, as we expect. Apparently his father is Abraham, and his mother is Sophie. And he died aged 82 shortly after that census, but apparently not 96, which was the family story. Again, I ordered the certificate. We get to see the information from the original document. Always good to check that. And looks like buried in Montefiore Cemetery, some extra information. Frida, similarly, apparently she died aged 83. We were expecting her to have died younger, according to the family story. So I'm starting to get some doubts about whether this is actually the right Joseph and Frida. A little difficult to pinpoint that, not an uncommon name, Stein. And apparently she died in 1930. Birthplace of Germany was a bit of a surprise, and we were looking for a maiden name of Steinberg, but this says person. However, it could be that's been mixed up by the whoever was the giving the information, because there was another family name of Berson, so perhaps that was mistaken. Here is the certificate itself. See that she died in the Bronx, chronic myocarditis. She was also buried in Montefiore, and that's in Springfield on Long Island. And here's a map of the cemetery. I managed to order pictures of the tombstones. Unfortunately, not much more information to be had. We'd really like some confirmation that Joseph's father was Abraham. That's what we were looking for, but anyway, unfortunately no information as to any Hebrew patronymics on these stones. So another element of doubt about whether this is the right Joseph or Frida, but we carry on in our research. So I then switched to Poland and looked at the wonderful website for the Foundation for Documentation of Jewish Cemeteries in Poland, and started looking for the father of Joseph, going back one more generation. And when looking for Abraham Eisenstein, I did manage to find an Abraham Tzvi. Here is his stone. And you get to see a larger picture of it. If you can read Hebrew, it's quite clear the Eisenstein there, and Abraham Tzvi is quite clear, and his father is Moshe David, I guess, the date of death being in 1909. So certainly quite possible for the Abraham we were looking for. Got the tombstone translated. Apparently he was a rabbi, Abraham Tzvi, son of Moshe David Eisenstein. Don't have any information from the family that that was the case, but you never know. In terms of his wife, Sophie, managed to find her stone as well. This is a Simmer Gittel Eisenstein, and you clearly see that the husband's name is Abraham Tzvi, and I think Simmer Gittel is the Sophie Berson that we were looking for before, because my own grandma, Sophie's Hebrew name was Simsivia, so I think Simmer Gittel is quite possible Hebrew name for someone who was called Sophie. And I got it translated. It turned out that she died very young, only 25 years old, perhaps in childbirth, who knows, but all the way back in 1889, so a long time before Abraham Tzvi died. Also, in the same Okopowa Street Cemetery, we managed to find Moshe David Eisenstein, going back one more generation. Zoom in on the tombstone, you can see the Moshe David and the father, and the Eisenstein, and the father is Yaakov Nehemiah. So I couldn't find any more details on Yaakov Nehemiah in terms of his tombstone, but it does look like this Moshe David died as an old and pious man, so he must have had a decent amount of age when he died in 1916, actually dying after his son, Avraham Tzvi. So, as I said, I couldn't find Yaakov Nehemiah's tombstone, but I did manage to find a record in JRI Poland, and it is for the death of another son of Yaakov Nehemiah. The view image link is there, so actually get to see the record itself. And zooming in on the important parts, we get to see Avraham Usha Eisenstein is the name of the deceased, and the father is Yaakov Nehemiah, as we're looking for, Eisenstein, and the mother is Enta something, and then Liechtenstein. So we have a new name going back in this this generation. Just to summarize the Steins, pretty much what we need to notice here is just the amazing longevity of everyone. Sam Stein himself made it to 100. His father looks like he died maybe aged 80, 86, depending who you want to believe, the records or the word of mouth. Joseph Stein, either 82 or 96, and similarly, we look back at all these earlier Eisensteins and get to see that they died of a good old age. So some wonderful longevity in this family that also passed down to later generations. I know Sam Stein's daughter, Sadie, also lived well into her 90s. So pretty amazing for the times, and going all the way back to Yaakov Nehemiah Eisenstein, we from this can deduce that he was born somewhere close to 1800. So to summarize that, we had the family tree before. We've managed to add in the name of Frieda Steinberg Stein. The previous generation was Avraham Tzvi and Simma Gittel, Sophie Eisenstein. One more generation, Moshe David Eisenstein, who died old. And then finally at the top we have Yaakov Nehemiah and his wife Enta Liechtenstein. And so we managed to put that together with a slightly morbid tree with all these tombstones, but you know, some quite reasonable information going back in time, although we do still have to check the facts because it is possible that we have not got the right Joseph and Frieda in the US, but if we have, I think this is definitely a plausible ancestry. Switching now to the Berkovich family. Again, I was very grateful to Stacy, my new cousin in New Jersey, for supplying so many pictures, documents, information, and so I want to take the Berkoviches back a bit further. And what I found was this record. So it is from a place called Minsk, Mazowiecki, which is about 20 kilometers to the east of Warsaw. Let's zoom in on the record, and here we get to see Shmuel Berkovich burying a Shosha Gajer, exactly what we were looking for. Now, there are a couple of problems with this. The marriage is in 1885, and that's a lot later than we were hoping for because their children were born between about 1879 and 1893, so it looks like they had their children some children got married, then had more children. You know, maybe that's not right. Perhaps this is the wrong Shmuel and Shosha. The other problem we have is that Shosha appears to have been born about 11 years previously to the marriage, and that's a bit young. So let's look at the records to find out more detail. So here is the record, and we get to see that we have Shmuel Berkovich, age 35, marrying Shosha Gegor that we were looking for, aged about 30. So the good news is that other birth record must be someone else. She's not 11 years old. That's a big worry off my mind. If we look at the record itself, here is the groom's name. It is Shmuel Berkovich, written out in both Hebrew and Polish. We also get to see the bride's name. This is Shosha Gajer, written in both Hebrew and Polish. And we also get to see the parents' names. We have Mendel and Friedler, Reuben, and Gershon, and Tzura, Kledgman. So a new name, Kledgman. We haven't heard that before, and this all took place in 1885. So this record is really too good to be true. As soon as we really knew the names of Shosha and Shmuel, remember originally I was searching for Losa and Abraham, but as soon as we started looking for the right names in Poland, we're much more likely to find records. Got a translation on JGSGB ViewMate, and this confirms the details that I've just explained. This was the birth certificate that, as I said, was the wrong one, so we do get to see that there is a Shosha on it, but the father is wrong. Isaac Dyer, actually, it's clearly a different person. It's not the father we were looking for, Shosha, who was Gershon. It's Isaac. We actually found out that Isaac is, in fact, Shosha's brother, so we might call this Shosha little Shosha, who's actually our Shosha's niece. But at least she wasn't 12 when she got married. That's a good thing. This is the brother Isaac's birth certificate, so did manage to find that. And this gives us more information about Shosha's parents. Unfortunately, I couldn't find Shosha's birth certificate, but did manage to find Isaac's. And in this, we see that the father is Gershon Gezer, and he has his occupation, storekeeper, 23 years old, so that allows us to get a birth date for him. And the mother is Sura, 20 years old, and the exact birth date in 1842 of Shosha's brother, Isaac. You can see on the screen, Isaac, and also the father's name, Gershon Gezer, it is, and finally Sura, that's the mother's name. Now we have a search for some Kledgmans. The search for some more Gezers. And this was from a different place called Kalushin. Again, that's just a little bit to the east of Minsk Mazowiecki, so about 30 kilometers or so from Warsaw to the eastern side. And having found Shosha's marriage certificate, we then managed to find the marriage certificate in 1840 of Gershon Gezer, Shosha's father, and Sura Golda Kledgman, Shosha's mother. All very exciting. There's another marriage taking place of a sibling to Gershon, Dworkin, but you get to see that the names of Gershon's parents are Ik and Shosha, another Shosha, This is our Shosha's grandmother, so we'll call her Old Shosha, and the parents of Suragolda Kledgman were Kaufman and Rushla. Here's the record. Quickly going through this, we see Gershon Iknovich Gezer as the groom. His father is Ik, marrying Suragolda Kledgman, and married to Ik is a Shosha. So next we dig into some more Kledgmans. So if you remember, Kaufman and Rushla were the parents of Suragolda, and there are other siblings as well who also have that same pair, Kaufman and Rushla. I also managed to find some other births which had Kaufman and Rushla Kledgman as the parents. These are really old. They're so old that the records don't actually include surnames. And from 1811 and 1812, but the surname has been derived by looking at all the given names. And as this gives the ages of the parents, Kaufman and Rushla, when the child Jacek Kledgman was born, this allows us to find exact dates for Kaufman and Rushla, dates of birth. Looking at the record, here it is, particularly old Polish record, and zooming in we see Kaufman Jaskowicz, child is called Jacek, and the mother is Rushla, daughter of Gottlob. So that basically gives us an extra generation. The father of Kaufman, Jask, and the father of Rushla, Gottlob. So to summarize where we are with the Berkowiczes, we have pictures of all the children except for Isidore, and we also have a picture of Shosha. She's married to Shmuel. By finding that marriage certificate for Shosha and Shmuel, we managed to go back one generation and find Mendela Berkowitz and Fredela Rubin, and Shosha's parents, Gershon Gezer and Suragolda Kledgman. That marriage was in 1840, and we find out that Gershon was a storekeeper, and he must have been born in around 1816 or 1819, and Suragolda must have been born in about 1822. We found that other marriage of Gershon to Suragolda, and that allows us to go back one more generation to Ik and Shosha, or Old Shosha Gezer, and Suragolda's parents, Kaufman and Rushla Kledgman. And finally, the birth of Jacek allows us to go one more generation back to Jask Kledgman and something like Gottl for Rushla's parents. And this gives us dates going back to approximately 1760, which is not bad at all. There was also another son of Gottl who was down as a witness. He happened to be a glazier, and because his age was given, we know he was born in about 1786, so Rushla's brother. So we've done pretty well going back from our Shosha back another 2 generations, another 3 generations, pretty good going, to about 1760. And if we had any doubt whether this was the right the right Shmuel Berkowitz marrying Shosha Gegor, we take a look at the names, and we see that Harris, or Gershon, was named after his grandfather, Gershon Gezer. Goldie, or Suragolda, was named after her grandmother, Suragolda Kledgman. Friedler was named after her grandmother, Friedler Rubin. Max was named after, his Hebrew name was Mendel, was named after Mendel Berkowitz. And even Isidore was named after his great-grandfather, Ikgesher. And Shosha, of course, was named after her grandmother, Old Shosha. That's where the name came from. So I think that's circumstantial evidence, but basically we've found who everyone was named for, with the exception of Louis. It's probably, there'll be someone else in the top left of this picture that I haven't found yet, who is a Leigh or a Louis, but that is future work. So that's it. Thank you for listening. We've really managed to break through the brick wall in the UK Berkovich research, and we've managed to find all the brothers, Shosha, and also go back 3 generations into the 1760s, Poland, Kalushin in particular, and this was very pleasing after about 5 years of research. So thank you for listening, and any questions, feel free to email me at leighdworkin@hotmail.com. Bye for now.